Hello everyone! It's time for another Cardfight Vanguard deck profile, this time on my standard, or in this case now V Premium, on my Dragonic Kaiser Vermillion, the Blood deck. Took a really long time for the Blood to be remade, like literally right at the end of V series with clan selection, but after seeing it, I was just excited to even play it, and the Blood is just a really fun deck in general, so this is not meant to be competitive, it's all meant to be just for fun, and because it all focuses on taking down everything in your way, aka your front row. So this deck is just meant for fun, so it's not meant to be all competitive. And of course I enjoyed it, and that's why I really like this deck. But no more wasting time, and let's get started with the deck profile. So, how I built this deck, well, is of course you play full offensive. This deck plays completely fully offensive. In some cases you could also play defense, because you could take advantage of, with the new card The Blood, with his drive check ability, but at the risk of risking your own life, which will be explained later. So, before we get started with the deck profile, which gift marker would you choose? You could go either. If you want to go full offensive, I would recommend Excel 1. Excel 1 can give you extra power, which can be really helpful. But in my honest advice, I think Excel 2 might be the better one, because Excel 2 is always really good. And mainly because it gives you the extra draw, and you really actually want to do the deck filtering in this deck. Because one thing that is very essential for this deck is that you really want to get regular Vermillion as soon as you can. And also the deck filtering, so your Blood has the ability with the extra drive checks, so you can filter out your deck as much as you can, so you can make it a lot easier for it to get more triggers. So that's just a recommendation, but you could go either. So let's get started with the deck profile, and of course, we start out with our front card, the base form Dragonic Kaiser Vermillion. So you mainly don't really want to ride this card at all, but if you must, once per turn, counter blast 2, this card gets plus 5k, and it can attack your opponent's front row. But if your opponent has one or less rear guards, it gets a crit instead. Completely bad, you don't play it for its skill, and Thunderbreak Dragon does much better than this. But you mainly run this card because the Blood requires them to be at full power. Because our next card, the actual main card of the deck, is Dragonic Kaiser Vermillion, the Blood, which has the ability of once per turn, counter blast 1, put a card from your hand to your soul, plus 5k, 1 drive check, and it could attack your opponent's front row. But if you manage to put base form Vermillion to your soul, it gets an additional plus 10k and 1 crit. That's 3 drive checks right there, regardless what card you put in your hand to soul. But if you put regular Vermillion, it's 27k base with 3 drive checks. But like I said before, the Blood has the ability, because based on lore, is risking death, but with the power to kill your opponent. Because its second skill is an act that is not even once per turn. You can Soul Blast 1 Vermillion, and it gets 1 additional drive check. But at the end of the turn, you will have to take 1 damage. So, because of its first skill allowing you to put a card in your soul, mainly regular Vermillion, that's 1 drive check. And then, with its second skill, you can Soul Blast it for another drive check. But you mainly don't do that until you're trying to kill your opponent. And there will be a superior ride engine in this deck, just letting you know. So you could build up your Vermillions in soul, and because you can do the second skill multiple times, yeah, you can probably get more than 5 drive checks in this deck, which I have managed to do. And now to our grade 2 lineup, we go to the most important card for the archetype, Spark Aerodragon. Its only skill is, if your Vanguard is Vermillion, you can Soul Blast a card, retire this, and superior ride 1 Vermillion card from your deck as stand. But you cannot use this ability for the rest of the turn, and any card that your Vermillion will retire, aka because it will attack your opponent's front row, gets banged instead. So that kind of solves a little bit of Vermillion's problems, because Narukami is focused on bind in standard, or in this case now V Premium, so it solves a little bit of that issue. But the superior ride is really good, especially because you could literally just ride a Blood and then just use Spark Aerodragon skill to superior ride a Blood, get 2 Excel markers in turn. You can do that. That's one reason why Spark Aerodragon is really powerful. But another one is, if for some reason you are kind of forced to ride regular Vermillion, Spark Aerodragon can correct that for you. That's what you want to run for. Now, your next grade 2 lineup could be anything, and it's really all up to you. I run the Eradicator Plasma Catapult Dragon, mainly because it's not an on-place retire, so that's one reason. But you could run Cholo instead, and it's the same thing for this next grade 2 being a Voltage Horn Dragon. I use Voltage Horn Dragon mainly for its first skill because the extra power can actually be very helpful, especially with the Spark Aerodragon being able to attack your opponent's whole front row, and then of course binding after, but also these two can move something to the front row after they retire, or in this case bind something in the front row, so there's also that. I can recommend Cholo, but I unfortunately don't have Cholo right now. But in this case, you could run anything you really want. And now, that's it for the grade 2 lineup. To the grade 1 lineup, I run Thundervolt Dragon. On place, look at top 5 for a Spark Arrow or a regular Vermillion. So this is your Vermillion Searcher or Spark Arrow Searcher, but you mainly want to search for Vermillion because you want the blood to be at full power. But it also has a second skill where when your Vanguard attack hits, it gets plus 5k, which of course will happen because your Vanguard will also be attacking the rear guards, which will most likely hit in many occasions. And then, of course, Rising Phoenix, because Rising Phoenix is still really good, especially with the Spark Arrow letting you make your Vermillion count as bind, so you could actually get some superior calls, although unfortunately, it's kind of like at the end of the battle, so you won't get the full benefits if you have like front triggers, but Rising Phoenix is a little +1, and it's also guard fodder, so of course you have to run it. And then next, this is a little weird one, but I decided to run Lizard Soldier Ricky. The reason why I run Ricky is because Ricky can put back row units to the front. I have faced situations where decks will retire the whole front row, and then I can't attack anything in the front row, so Ricky can actually solve some of those issues by moving the cards from the back to the front. And then finally, grade 3 Searcher. Now in this case, I normally only would run 2 grade 3 Searchers, but in this deck you really want to get Blood as your main ride and regular Vermillion to your hand for Blood's full potential. So I want to maximize the consistency of getting those grade 3s, which is why I run 4 grade 3 Searchers. And that's it for the grade 1 lineup. So now, my starter is Spark Kid Dragoon. Choose whatever starter you want. Now the trigger lineup, it also depends on you, but I decided to go the rainbow lineup with the 4 crits, 4 fronts, because your blood will always attack first, so of course you can always do it. 4 draw PGs. Now if you want to play full offensive and make things scary, you can run 8 crits with the crit sentinels, but I do want the extra draw because you want to filter out your deck as well, especially when you want to get regular Vermillion as soon as you can, so I prefer to run draws. And of course you want to go full for heals, unless if you want to go full offensive and not play heals at all, which I have seen some people do, and just play the offensive cards, go right ahead. So that's it for this deck profile. Very simple, very fun, just attack everything that gets in your way, a lot of power, and risking yourself a suicide. That's basically this deck. And also Vermillion's design is awesome, so I had to play it. But other than that, I will be doing a Spectral Duke one next week. It might be very similar to like pretty much everyone else's profile, but hey, it's my explanation, so that's going to be the difference. But other than that, have a nice day.